Yes, hello everybody, and welcome back once again to the Dynasty Hotseat. It's the only Dynasty show out there that's a certified Inferno, and we got a certified Inferno of a guest. He's back on the show, an old hat over here. The fans have been clamoring for him for months. It's Kyle Senra back on the hot seat. Kyle, great to see you, my friend. Pumped about the CFL starting up again soon. I bet it's very exciting. We got football coming up soon.
Yeah, less than a week away from real competitive football. Sorry, UFL. I don't count you. And I don't count soccer when I say football. So sorry, Mags, and everyone in the UK. But thank you, Mags, and also everyone in the UK for inviting me on to the Dynasty Hot Seat. And by the way, I know you've been pushing, and it says like and subscribe, and we want people to continue to subscribe. But congrats on hitting 1,000 subscribers.
Oh, thank you so much, my friend. That's very much appreciated. Yeah, hitting that 1,000 milestone has been a goal forever, and it's been absolutely great to reach it. But of course, we don't want to stop there. So make sure you like and subscribe to become certified. What do you think about that little tagline, Kyle? It's not bad,
Yeah,
right?
love it.
Yeah, it's
Love when we rhyme all the time.
yeah. Oh wow, we're on
And
a
after
roll now.
line.
Look at that. Yeah.
Boo.
Yeah, and that's all we have time for, Kyle. So that's it. We're going to go through startup mock draft. Hey, I had so much fun last time. I didn't mean to, but Sleeper kind of forced me into the draft. Kyle, I had a ball drafting with my guests, so I'm going to do it with you as well. You've claimed the one spot. I've gone in the middle at the 6. Kyle, why in particular have you chosen the one spot? Is that a strategy you like, or you just do it for shits and giggles?
Well, yeah. I mean, I if I was picking right now in a dynasty startup, that's probably the spot I'd want to get because there's one particular player I absolutely want to get more than anyone.
Yeah.
In theory, if I wasn't so emotionally attached to the player, I should look at the tiers and say 104 might actually be the ideal spot. You still in Superflex, in my mind, you still get access to that top tier quarterback. You're guaranteed one of those top
Mm-hmm.
four, and your second round pick will be better than the second round pick of 212 relative to 209. Who knows if that makes a big difference, but without really knowing, that's probably objectively the spot I should go. But let's just have some fun here. Let's rip it off the fire right away. I don't know if that's an expression.
Yeah,
Let's say it's a Canadian expression. Everyone will believe me. But yeah, I'm going 101.
Absolutely. Let's go. So let's get the draft started right now.
Names.
All right. Let's go. I've accidentally set a clock on. Hold on. Let me just fix that for you, Carl. I thought I had disabled that. Well, let's go into our settings and fix that for you. I don't want to. I know this is called the hot seat, but I don't want to. I don't want to put you on a one minute timer. That might be a little bit too much pressure for you. So let's go. I'll give you all the time in the world. Not that you're going to need it at 1-1 because you said you had one guy in mind, and tell me why it's Chuba Hubbard.
Oh, love the Canadian. If I'm going to go with the Canadian running back, though, I probably would go Chase Brown over Chuba Hubbard. Go with the guy still on his rookie contract as opposed to the guy in his second contract.
Yeah.
Bengals offense, Panthers offense, which offense would have rather invested? So yeah, Chase Brown 101, Dynasty Superflex started now.
Absolutely.
I'm going back to the last mock draft I did with you, Mags, and that was a rookie draft last year. And they were going even pre-NFL draft for this one. And I know that because I went back and I looked and yeah, man, I think I nailed the 101 perfectly in that one. I also had Troy Franklin at the 109. So clearly a pre-draft draft. I don't think I would have made that mistake after the draft. But before the NFL draft, I had Jaden Daniels as the 101 in the rookie class. And based on the results after 1 year, I think that was the smart pick to make. So I want to take Jaden Daniels again. So we're going to draft Jaden Daniels right here. I think I mentioned that top tier quarterback as well. We're not seeing all of them go. So I know what I would do in your spot, but I guess I'll leave it to you. And then I'll kind of get into it after.
I love it. So as I'm drafting along with my guests, I'm going to try and outline a specific goal I have each time. So what I'm going to try and do in this draft, Kyle, is I'm going to really just build around an elite wide receiver core, and I'm going to sort that out immediately, and then see if I can scramble around and get some of the other positions locked up. So that's going to be my goal in this week's episode. And I can see a name right at the top there. Justin Jefferson is still available So I'm thrilled to add him as my very first wide receiver to the team. And I'll keep building on that core as we go. In this layout, we have 3 wide receivers starting. So I think it would be a good idea for me to build on that. And I mean, as we can see, loads of them come flying right off the board. So I am glad I got Justin Jefferson. I'm going to keep it on the wide receiver tab, and I'm going to keep building and keep moving around it. I've got Nico Collins up there at the top, who I love. Drake London, Lad McConkey, and Marvin Harrison Jr. still there.
Of course you're going to go Drake London. Yeah. I know how much you love Drake London.
Well, so the thing I think maybe misunderstood about my Drake London, let's call it my year of Drake London that I had last year, was I really didn't like the link with Drake London and Kirk Cousins. I just didn't see how that was ever going to work. Just the way that Kirk Cousins, outside of Justin Jefferson, has never developed a wide receiver 1 for fantasy football, really. And I didn't think Drake London was anywhere near the talent of Justin Jefferson to do that.
I think,
but now, Thielen, maybe 1 year of Adam Thielen. Sorry, you might be right.
That was a weird year. He was the wide receiver 1 overall until like week 9 or 10, and from then on, he was like the wide receiver 50. So he over the course of the year, he was a top 12 receiver. That was a weird year for Thielen. I think he set a record for consecutive 100-yard games or something, or like it was a weird season. But it did happen. But Drake London's all like the one thing that's shocked me is his target share has always been incredibly high. But I know the reason you don't like him, because you mentioned a lot last year, the fantasy finishes weren't there to match. 29% target share, and he's wide receiver 36. How is that even possible?
Yeah, it didn't make sense. And even
the numbers were there last year, though. The fantasy points definitely got up. I can't remember what his finish was, but it certainly wasn't wide receiver 36.
No, well, he was wide receiver 20 in points per game, so still hasn't cracked that top 20 in terms of points per game. But I actually think this year with Michael Penix, that is almost like the perfect quarterback for him. So I'm stepping off my Drake London pedestal a little bit, and I think that he'll have a really good season. But I'm still not going to draft him here because I'll still go ahead and take. I'm gonna trust in Marvin Harrison Jr. You know that. I think this is maybe a reach. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is the greatest wide receiver prospect I've ever seen coming out of college. I know I've not been doing this forever, but good Lord, Marvin Harrison Jr. was impressive. And I think he's going to bounce back. And a lot of people are going to be really, really pleased about getting a guy like Marvin Harrison. Some of those other guys that have went ahead of him, I would have loved, like a Puka, I would have taken there. But I'll bank on Marvin Harrison. And we're right back to you. You've got Jaden Daniels locked in. Do you have a particular strategy you like to do for drafts, or are you kind of like, that Bruce Lee kind of be like water, like move around?
Yeah, I tend to be really flexible. I will say it's been a while since I've done a snake startup. I think it was March 2023. So we're talking over 2 years ago since my last snake startup. So I remember that did not go very well. That team is not good. So I tend to do more auction startups, and I feel like in that format, I prepare a lot. I create spreadsheets, like max values for every player I think is worth more than the minimum. Like I'm really detailed into that, the pre-draft, but I also think as much as you have all that framework and information, you have to remain flexible in that format. I think that's what that format's taught me, is just never to go in with a preconceived notion, right? Like I knew, I'm taking 101, I'm taking Jaden Daniels. I think in a Superflex draft, the one thing that guides me, especially early, if I'm not sure between a quarterback and a non-quarterback, I should probably just take the quarterback. Because if I'm not sure, it's because I'm not sure what's going to happen next. Kind of surprised at some of these quarterbacks falling so far. I mean, Hurts almost falling out of the first round. Herbert falling that far. I mean, I would take Hurts over Burrow. So that team going Herbert would have been amazing, but Burrow Herbert's still a really good combo. But yeah, that again, and that's why I thought 104, 105 is a good spot to be. Someone's probably going to take Chase early. And to your point about the receivers, I think if you're not going to go quarterback there, like at 106 at your spot, I think Jefferson is the pick. I don't know about Marvin Harrison though, because you mentioned one name, and to me, it's the last guy in the tier 2 of wide receivers, and I put Harrison and London in the next tier. That's Nico Collins. And so I'm not really debating between a quarterback. This is a pretty easy Nico Collins pick, even in third round.
Yeah, Nico Collins is a thought. Cal, we just lost a little bit of reception for you there, but I think you were talking to us about how Nico Collins is an absolute stud. I found it I find it real difficult to pass him up. And I'm very happy for you that you managed to get him. You got to be pleased, right?
Yeah, I'm happy to see Drake London and Harrison go ahead of him. And I really like Trey McBride, but at this point, I'm going to take that elite receiver over that elite tight end. So yeah, I think through 2 picks, that's set up really well. I know that the temptation to go with a quarterback, perhaps, but I'm going to risk it and see what happens in the 3rd round, even with the 3rd round reversal. I think Collins is so solid that I'll risk not getting the quarterback I maybe want and just take him there. And again, your point earlier, how many receivers have come off the board? Maybe you should get the elite receivers when you can. So Nico Collins is like a pretty easy pick. I kind of like that start, Daniels Collins. I do have a dynasty team that has that right now. So
nice.
Hoping
nice.
I can win the league this year.
Yeah, it's certainly a good building blocks to work off. And I'm going to stick religiously to my plan of building around elite wide receivers. And I see Garrett Wilson on the board, who's got the youth. I see AJ Brown. I see Travis Hunter there as well, who, one's a little bit older. One, I still have a few, question marks about until we see him play, but he is obviously great. But Garrett Wilson, I just think this guy's an absolute stud. He's been doing it with, the worst quarterbacks imaginable. So hopefully Justin Fields can work out. And if not, I think this 2026 class coming up is loaded with pretty good quarterbacks. So if it doesn't work out of the Jets for Justin Fields, I can imagine that they'll draft in someone to finally be a reliable QB for Garrett Wilson. So I'm thrilled. Justin Jefferson, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Garrett Wilson on my team. No other positions, though. So this is kind of the tricky part after this, I think. But Kyle, it goes back onto you now. You got Daniels and Collins leveled up for your team, and you got 2 picks in a row here. So where are you going?
Yeah, so I think there's temptation to think, okay, let's because Daniels and Collins, you can go either way with that team. Right? That could be a long-term productive struggle rebuild type team because they're both young assets. I think they're so productive that if I've got that start, I'm thinking I want to go win now. And I guess that's my one question to you. Oh, never mind. He did just that the receiver that went right after Garrett Wilson and AJ Brown. Was there any temptation to say, okay, I've got 2 young receivers already to take maybe someone who could be the wide receiver 1 overall fantasy points wise, certainly fantasy points per game. Was that temptation there at all with AJ Brown?
Yeah, definitely. I think my general go-to, Kyle, would be to try and win in year 1 or year 2. That's kind of my go-to. I like to get in. I like to make my money right away and not worry about entry fees for a couple of years and kind of just build up that nice little team stake kind of like kitty that you don't really like. You don't have to worry at all about paying your entry fees for a year or 2, which is lovely. So that is my usual go-to. I'm trying something different, though. I'm trying something different in this show just to see how it goes. I'll probably not like my team at the end, though, which is a bit of a shame. So are you now tempted? Is there a player on the board that you see as a go-to win now, or what direction are you going?
Yeah, this honestly, if I didn't take Nico Collins, the pick I probably would have made was a guy that I've got ranked, I think is the QB, my QB 8 currently, and I'm seeing like on KTC, we did an episode on Dynasty 6-pack a couple weeks ago. And looking at like buys and sells, and I think Kyler Murray might be one of the biggest buys. KTC price at that point was like QB 14, and so I think like there's several quarterbacks that went ahead of him, especially young quarterbacks, that I'd be willing to sell those guys away for Murray. And at this point, based on the draft price, you could probably get Kyler Murray plus for Caleb Williams, Kyler Murray plus for Drake May with all the hype he's getting. I even got a Bo Nix share in the league, and I'm that's that same startup league I was talking about, March 2023, that awful startup. Do I lucked out with Bo Nix last year. Do I try and get extra value by selling Bo Nix for Kyler Murray right now? So I'm kind of toying with that idea, but I think the fact that I was debating taking him at 212 and the fact that he's there at 312, I think it's an easy pick for Murray. This next pick, I think, is a lot more tricky for me. So that's maybe why I'm delayed. I'm trying to, in my mind, could really go in any direction. Man, would have loved for AJ Brown to fall. I already mentioned him earlier. He was a few picks away. Like that would have been outstanding, especially for a win now team. And I think Kyler really pushes that. So my first thought was, there's a couple of receivers I like. I think that in my rankings, the highest ranked receivers are the rookies. So I don't know that I really want to go rookie wide receiver. I'm going to think with Collins set, I feel like I can try and get receiver depth later on.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going total Canuck here. I'm not taking Chuba Hubbard. this might be a reach, but he's my next highest ranked running back. Would have loved for Bucky Irving to fall one pick, or Achane. Was really hoping for one of those two running backs. But after those guys in my dynasty rankings, the next guy I have is Chase Brown. So
Chase Brown, he's done so well for himself. Like I did not see it coming. I can't lie. Like I didn't think that he was gonna carve out such a big role for himself there. But man, he took it and he delivered. I still can't quite get myself there. I don't know. I'm like, is it the fact that he had the opportunity that he's ended up doing so well, or is it the fact that he's got better and better? That I still can't fully make my mind up about Chase Brown. So, Cal, the floor is yours. Why don't you sell myself and the listeners on Chase Brown and why they should go after him?
Well, yeah, he didn't do much as a rookie. Joe Mixon was.
Yeah. Oh, we've lost a little bit of signal from you again, Kyle. Just as you were about to wax lyrical about Chase Brown. I think we got you back again, though.
Yeah, every time I see you freeze, I realize what's happening. So, yeah, year one, he basically did nothing. Like he was the second running back, but he barely got any usage since everything was going to Joe Mixon. And last year, the season started, and it seemed like the split between him and Zach Moss. But then I wonder, is that something where he did so well to end the year that that's not a genie you can put back in the bottle? Suddenly, they're not going to be splitting him with Zach Moss. Like, it's going to be very clear Brown is the number one guy. And, it's funny because he did get hurt at the end of the year, and you might say, oh, was it just the extra usage? It was the stupidest thing. He was trying to not score a touchdown and go down, but by doing that, he put himself in an awkward position and really messed up his ankle, and then they just QB sneaked it on the next play. Like, he really should have scored that touchdown, and then we'd have no injury concerns whatsoever. So for a freak weird play like that, it didn't seem like it was like a major knee injury. Like, I'd expect there's going to be no lingering of that this year. I still think he's going to get a ton of work. They brought in Taj Brooks. They're not someone I was totally convinced on as this. I mean, I don't even think he's better than Zach Moss personally. Like Taj Brooks might end up being the backup, but I still view him as like a third stringer, kind of like Brown was year one, where he's not really going to do that. Maybe once Zach Moss leaves, he gets that role. But I don't know how efficient he was last year. I'm pretty convinced, and I think because I'm looking like McCaffrey win. If you wanted, maybe thinking truly win now could have gone McCaffrey, but this early in a dynasty startup, I think there are other pure win now running backs I can get later.
Yeah,
I think Brown could count as a win now running back too, though. But he's still on his rookie contract, and he still has a couple years in his rookie contract because there's other guys: Kenneth Walker, Kyron Williams, James Cook, Breece Hall. They're all about to be on their second contract. They're all entering the final years of their rookie deals. So I'd rather Brown than those guys. I think he can produce just as well as most of them. Then it's the rookies, right? Do I go with a rookie running back or not? And then it's back to, in my rookie rankings, I would have a guy like Tedder or McMillan over those rookie running backs. So then it's, I don't want to take Judkins or Henderson over McMillan, but I also didn't think that this team wanted McMillan. Actually, the one guy I was debating was Sam Laporta, who went immediately after. Just get that. Who I have as my tight end 3, just get that now and don't worry about it. But I also like to wait at tight end. So when I narrowed everything down, Chase Brown stood out to me as the best pick, is the best, again, for a team that's thinking win championship now. I like him, but I think he's still this is where he belongs dynasty value-wise. So I don't think I'm reaching on an older player just for the sake of it.
Love it. So he's locked in to go along with Nico Collins and your 2 stud QBs. I'm keeping it going at wide receiver. Yeah, go Canada. I'm going to go with a guy who will be my 4th wide receiver, who I can see finishing as a wide receiver 1. I could have 4 of the top 12 here. I'm taking Rashee Rice as my 4th pick. I think he is the undisputed number 1 target at Kansas City based on what I've seen, being a Chiefs fan, watching every game. He does what Travis Kelce used to do. He operates in that area of the field, and I expect him to do that. I know there's off the field stuff. I know he seems a bit of a knucklehead, but hopefully he can get things sorted out and start producing for Kansas City on a more consistent basis. So, I mean, I've got some studs in at wide receiver, and I'm almost tempted to keep this going, to be honest with you. There's still loads of value on the board, but I might go ahead now and maybe pick my first quarterback. I can still see Rome Odunze there, but I don't think I would trade up Rome Odunze to get this quarterback. I see great value. He's been crushing it in OTAs, apparently. I'm going to take Minnesota Vikings quarterback JJ McCarthy as my quarterback 1, Kyle. Now we see kind of the the downfalls of taking wide receiver early and often, because JJ McCarthy, as good as he is, I'm a bit scared as my QB1. My Superflex QB, I'm happy, but as QB1, a bit nervous.
I'm kind of surprised you didn't just go Dak Prescott to solidify that QB1 production-wise.
Yeah.
I'm going to punish you for it, too, because Dak Prescott should not be this late in the 5th round. So even though I've already got 2, I'm going to play the bully QB strategy at this point and think that I can probably sell Prescott for players, maybe, Achane or Irvin, like that Achane team that doesn't have a QB. Can I get Devon Achane with Prescott, and then I get my RB4 in Dynasty, right? So, yeah, I'm definitely taking Prescott here because I don't have to worry about the consequences of actually making these trades. It's all just theoretical. So that's great, too, is I don't actually have to put in the work.
Yeah.
But if I was for value, I think, I think Dak should have gone. Frankly, I mean, I have Dak ranked ahead of every quarterback in this 5th round except for Purdy. So to me, like, there's no reason Cam Ward or Lawrence or frankly McCarthy should be going ahead of Dak personally. So I'm going to punish all the rest of the league for that and take Dak.
Yeah, take that value.
Yeah, he did go. Shoot, I missed that. I thought Devontae Smith was available, but he isn't. Yeah, him. Ooh. You know what? If you feel like maybe Chase Brown is a little, and he's halfway through his rookie contract and you want some youth at running back.
Yep.
Do you like this pick? You're going to love this picker. I'm going to go with RJ Harvey in the 6th round.
Oh, I mean, that is a spectacular pick, Kyle.
You might hate it if you wanted him, but yeah.
Kind of.
I
kind of did.
I've got 2, again, my foundation, my running back room is 2 running backs on their rookie contracts, and maybe, he's not as win now. I think he can produce really well year 1, though. So he might be a good, still like trying to win this year type of running back. If Devontae Smith hadn't gone, I think he would have been the pick there. But 3 picks before he goes.
Yeah, RJ Harvey is an absolute stud. I think that's a wonderful pick to add to your team. And I'm on the clock now, and I'm like, okay, there's a couple of places I could go. I could just continue down my run of just bolstering my running back or my wide receiver room, or I've got a guy on the board here I spoke about earlier who I believe in and I think is a really good player in Michael Penix Jr. I could just take another young quarterback that will hopefully develop and do a really good job for me. There are other quarterbacks on the board. Maybe I'll go ahead and pick up another veteran later in case one of these 2 guys don't work out. I'll at least have a veteran that can slide in. But for now, I see all the value in the world in Michael Penix Jr., so I don't see why I wouldn't take him. I do trust that he'll be able to run that offense well. I think Drake London will have a really good season with Michael Penix too. So I'm happy locking him up as, man, loads of these receivers do come off the board. I am pleased that I locked up so many. Chuba Hubbard was in my mind a little bit on the way back, but he is now also gone. This is kind of where do I start to think about getting in a tight end that I could slot in and be pleased with. I do see a guy here that is young. I think we'll have a bounce back season. I always toy with taking him around here, and I for some reason never do, Kyle. And I don't really know why, but I'm going to break that habit today, and I'm going to believe that TJ Hawkinson's going to have a great bounce back, and he'll be up there in the top echelons of tight ends again at the end of this season. So I'm really pleased. I've got my wide receivers locked in. I've got my quarterbacks locked in. I've got a guy on I'm not going to say elite, but on the cusp in that top tier for sure of tight end as well. I'm pretty pleased. You've got RJ Harvey as your last pick. Are you continuing to round out the running back room now? What are you thinking?
It is tempting because there's one name that's standing there as like a real good win now guy. But I do feel like you mentioned how many receivers have gone. I definitely want to take one wide receiver here. And my wide receiver 22 is still on the board. So kind of someone who's gotten good target share, not Drake London type target share. It's funny. He feels like Drake London, a first rounder as well. Immediately was earning targets. I think he had like a 21% target share as a rookie, but the drops, his catch rate was pretty bad. So he's always earned targets. And he finally put it together last year. You know what I'm talking about, man.
Finally put it together after a couple of drops. I mean, are we talking about, is this his 5th year now in the league for him?
I think so. 5th year, second team.
Yeah, we talking double J.
Yeah, we are.
He really did put it together. Like, who do you think will be his quarterback? Is that worrying you at all?
You see, I think it'll be Flacco most of the year, at least until like either
which is
Flacco plays really
great for
bad,
him.
or that's the thing, and that's why I like Judy. I think Flacco is definitely the best option, and I also
Yeah.
think this team 2 years ago made the playoffs with Flacco. So from
Yeah.
Stefanski's standpoint, they're probably like, if there's belief in the team, you've re-upped Miles Garrett on this big contract. Let's go for it now. You got to
Yeah.
think Flacco's going to be the starter until he looks so bad that they have to go to someone else, or they're eliminated from playoff contention. And I mean, that could be early as well, to be fair, but at
Yeah.
least early through that fantasy season, I think Flacco's what's going to help propel Jerry Jeudy to another finish like he had last year. So to me, he stood out as
Love
the
it.
last guy in this tier. We get to this like next tier of rookies now that McMillan and Hunter are gone, and then we get to like the older wide receivers. He was really the last one that's like he could be really productive, but still young, not on a rookie contract anymore, but still pretty, I think, useful for fantasy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's very undervalued for sure. I think he'll do a really good job, and great to get a guy that could finish, high end wide receiver 2, low end wide receiver 1 potentially. In what round are we in now? Round number
That was 7.
Yeah,
7,
man,
end of round 7, and now and very, because I was just about to bring up the round. I think round 8 is late enough for me to go at tight end and think I got one at a value. And there really is one guy standing out that if he can, he's had good target shares through 2 seasons, I think like 18, 19%. So he's earning targets, but very disappointing because of all the hype a lot of people, including you, had on him. I think the talent's there. I think he's earning enough targets. I'm going to take the shot this late in the draft on Dalton Kincaid. He was not going to go in the 8th round last year. So to get him 8th round here after, I think, basically all the other top 12 tight ends have gone. All the other tight end ones for dynasty value anyway, basically all gone. I think this is a good value where I could feel good about him and still feel like I didn't reach on a tight end.
I still believe in Dalton Kincaid. I think there's I loved him as a prospect coming out. I thought his hands were great. I didn't quite get, like last year it all seemed to add up for me. It was like the Bills had the most air yards leaving the team, the most targets leaving their team. It's like Dalton Kincaid's going to get funneled them. It just turns out Khalil Shakir had a real good year last year, a kind of sneaky good year. He took up a lot of the targets that I would have assumed Dalton Kincaid would have taken, and Josh Allen just played Superman ball as well, which Josh Allen's going to do. So didn't quite work out, but I still believe he's got the talent, and that puts me back on the board. I could see a guy at the top of the ATP here is Justin Fields, and you had a bit of a funny story with Justin Fields with your colleague Jamie on your Fantasy Six Pack show recently, right?
We've talked a lot about Breece Hall, I think.
I think it was Jamie not offered for Justin Fields? It was like Isaiah Davis on a 4th for Justin Fields, and then
Jamie loves talking about all the bad trades, right? And, what did I say to do again? I think try and get that managers first, I think was my thought. Like if they're so bad at valuing players, like can you find a way to
Yeah, and then I think they took Justin Fields and
then took Fields in the
Fields in the 5th round, right? Ahead of Cam Ward.
Right. So I said go in that league and try and offer a first for Fields, right? And see if you can just get that extra startup pick and see if you could get Isaiah Davis in the startup, offer him that 2 fourths, 2 future fourths. Isaiah Davis is basically worth a 4th, right? This is equal there. But I mean, I like Fields. I've always really liked Fields. That startup draft I keep referencing from March 2023. I took Fields in the 1st round. That's one of the things that really messed up that draft for me. But he might get starts this year. I might get good production out of him. So
yeah, I think you'll definitely get more production out of him this year for sure. And it is a bit of a do I take him here kind of moment. I do have Penix and McCarthy. I don't think Fields quite suits the build that I'm making in terms of taking the 3rd guy. I want more of a risk averse.
I agree.
Take a Matthew Stafford or something a little bit later. So I'm happy to wait on quarterback.
Probably super cheap for a guy that's going to start next year. So Stafford, Geno,
those are the kind of
complements
guys.
The young guys too, right? Yeah,
absolutely, Kalia. That's kind of what I'm thinking. There's guys like Mike Evans on the board that doesn't really suit my team as well. Running backs, I mean, there are a few. None of them really suit what I'm building either. I do see a couple of wide receivers again, though, where I'm like, okay, I could make this work too. So there's a lot of people I'm going to go. I'm actually going to go ahead here. I'm going to take what might be a bit of a reach, but I love this guy. I think he's going to have a slam dunk season. I think people are going to be kicking themselves whenever they go, man, why the hell didn't we see that goddamn Justin Herbert and Trey Harris is a match made in heaven? So I'm going to take Trey Harris here in the 8th round with a big smile on my face ahead of guys like Luther Burden and other guys who perhaps you might think they went ahead of each other in the rookie drafts, but I've always had Trey Harris ahead of guys like Luther Burden. Where are you on the Trey Harris fence, Cal? Because it seems to be one side or the other from what I've seen.
Man, I was totally prepared to talk about this on if we did a rookie draft instead of a startup draft. But that, to me, one of the hardest spots to rank, like in this case, 1 through 5 at any like rookie position this year, really at any spot in rookie drafts, was wide receiver 3 through wide receiver 7. Yeah, and I think Harris is right in the middle of that. They all had great things about their profile, and they all had warts to a certain extent. And like Harris's big wart is that he's the 55th pick overall. And like in this tier, you've got like first round receivers and just the draft capital that he got is not pales in comparison. That seems a little harsh, but it's definitely the fact that he's outside the top 50 and everyone else in this tier isn't. That works against him. But the depth chart's great, and I think like the receivers I'm talking about there, that's Mika Ibuka, Matthew Golden as the first rounders, and as you mentioned, Burden. I also really like Jaden Higgins. If you look at all those teams, Herbert's probably the best quarterback. So Harris has the best QB from that perspective. You know, I think Higgins with Stroud is also really good, but right now I'd say Herbert's proven a little more year over year than Stroud has. So that's like the really positive thing about him. But the negative is that, you know, Ibuka's the 19th overall pick in the NFL draft, and Harris is the 55th. And I mean, it's not like you're, you know, Ibuka's already gone. Like, not like you're taking Harris over. That was just from that rookie ranking perspective. Like, you know, why he maybe looks worse in that group in particular. But that's, to me, that's the tier, right? And I think I do have Higgins ranked higher. I liked his production profile a little more. He's a 34th overall pick. I like that more than Harris going 20 picks later. Just enough that that's who I would prefer. But I think it's, to me, at this point, that the best investments if you're making receiver probably is the rookies.
Yeah, they're so young, and Trey Harris, I can just see a bright future for him. And I'm back on the clock as well here. I do see a quarterback here that is a little risky. He still has question marks, but when healthy, has been really, really good. And I think we've had so many scares with it's Tua Tagovailoa. We've had a lot of scares with him, but I just can't really ignore the value in the 9th round, really. So I've got JJ McCarthy. I've got Michael Penix. It is a bit of a gamble still, I think, taking Tua because there are question marks over him. But he's young enough that he could stay in this team and make it work. And I'm hoping that they'll take good care of him and not let him take any of these hits, and Tua will have a full, healthy season. I am toying with Mark Andrews as well. I see him there too, but I'll go for Tua for now, and hopefully everything will work out, Cal, and he won't hurt himself. No one wants to see that again. That's, hopefully clean bit of health for Tua this year, and that puts you back on the clock. You've rounded out your team quite nicely at this stage as we're moving into the double digits in terms of rounds. Do you start to think, oh, I need to fill this gap in my team, or are you still just like, who's the best player? I'm going to take
it's funny because I think they converge because I'm looking, I don't have that third wide receiver yet. I need a starting receiver. In my dynasty rankings, my wide receiver 27 is Khalil Shakir. Yeah, I think, and you know, at this point, the only hesitation is that I just went Kincaid, and do I have 2 Bills? But then I also look at their targets last year; those were the top 2 targets on the team. So now I wonder, as much as I love Jaden Daniels, is the smartest move here after the startup to try and offer Jaden Daniels for Josh Allen and get anything thrown, even if it's just a 4th on top. The incentive is now I've got this big stack that I didn't necessarily plan, but to me, the value at both is falling. So having both Kincaid and Shakir it's not scary enough for me to not take Shakir. I find it wild. And he was, again, back to the Dynasty 6-pack a couple weeks ago. He was my buy at wide receiver. Or sorry, Keon Coleman was my sell at wide receiver. And my specific trade that says, you know, throw in a third on Coleman, he could probably get Shakir right now in the sleeper ADP. they're literally back to back. Keep Trade Cut had it like that a couple weeks ago too. So
Wow.
I think Coleman's just a little early, but I definitely think it's just Khalil Shakir is going so late. I mean,
I
I've
agree.
got him ranked over every wide. I mean, I said earlier the rookies are probably the better investment. I do have Shakir ranked ahead of Igbuka and that whole tier of receivers, including Trey
Oh,
Harris.
wow.
I would
Yeah,
take Shakir over any receiver. Honestly, any receiver since I took Jerry Jeudy. So to
Yeah.
me, I basically got those next two receivers in that, and I picked it well in terms of the ADP because Shakir fell 2 rounds later. But yeah, I think he's the easy pick here. And again, I'm delaying because to me, the one guy that falls is easy. And then what's that second pick I make? That's the one I kind of debate a little bit. I kind of like the running backs at this point. I want to take one more. I think I'm kind of leaning into that, right? Like, this is now where the reason I took Chase Brown and Harvey and not like McCaffrey or Henry in those ranges is I thought I could get these win now, almost workhorse backs later at values. And like I could take a running back here that could be my RB1 for this upcoming season. Someone I've just actually traded for in Dynasty, and that's Aaron Jones. And I will say it wasn't so much trading for Aaron Jones as trading away DeAndre Swift because I managed to get a second, swap the second for a third. And I thought, I could see why they would do it. Swift, I think, is like 3 years younger than Jones. But at the same time, they're both second contract running backs. At this point, that 3-year age gap doesn't really matter to me much because I don't think there's much long-term value on Swift, much more than there is on Jones.
Fair.
And so, Jones could outscore Swift this year. I might get the more productive running back, and I get the second round pick. So that's those type of trades I'm trying to make right now, right? Like where I have them kind of, I think, back to back in my rankings, or certainly in the same tier. But if someone else values them differently, try and take advantage of that. And that's how you kind of the buy low, sell high thing. That's kind of it's not the highest price you can sell Swift at, but you're selling them higher than you are relative to the other player you're getting, and you're kind of buying low a little bit on Jones because again, I do think they probably should be similar. James Conner immediately after was the other guy I was debating between him and Jones, but I do have a bit higher. I think involvement in the passing game. I think they both have good high touchdown upside. I would expect McCarthy to run less than Murray, so in theory that means more dump offs from McCarthy, especially coming off the knee injury. Like that might be something where he's utilizing the running backs as a receiving option a lot more than expected. And I didn't get Jordan Addison earlier. I was disappointed about that, and so now this is, even though I'm a Packers fan, I still get the Vikings player that at least one of the ones I wanted. Man, if only Mags didn't swipe Jefferson. If only Jefferson didn't fall. I wanted him to fall to 212, right? No.
And JJ, I didn't even think I've got JJ McCarthy. I've got the Jefferson McCarthy stack.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
About that.
You know what? And I kind of criticized you a little bit on the Dak pick, but that actually makes that make more sense. I didn't think about that either.
I think subconsciously I must have known Kyle. That's why I didn't even realize what I was doing. Yeah, it's just
there's a whole inferno going on in there of thoughts.
There's a whole absolutely. So I'm back on the board here, and I'm like, all right, it's pretty obvious the type of build I'm going for, where I kind of punting running back and kind of going, right, I'm maybe not going to compete year one, but I've got the longevity of having these super young quarterbacks, these wide receivers that we know can play for a lot longer. And now I kind of see, again, it is a slight risk, but I see some opportunity appearing. There are wide receivers here that I'm kind of like, oh, there's some question marks over them. I don't really need to worry about the wide receivers anymore because I have so many that anyone I draft now is not making it in my team unless there's a huge injury crisis, which I'm hopefully not going to have. So I'm going to go and take a bit of an upside play here. Someone who I think will have his workload increased this year. And then maybe next year we'll see him as the overall starter, someone I still believe in. I like me some Trey Benson at Arizona still. I quite liked him as a prospect. Kyle, do you see him getting a bit more workload? James Conner was a force last year, but Benson's good. Benson's good. What do you think about that? You can see kind of going not sure.
Think Benson's good because Amari DeMarcado was getting way more carries than Benson. If they really thought Benson was good, like that probably wouldn't have happened. So I don't know. I definitely would have gone Tony Pollard just because he seemed like the last lead running back. I
don't like Tony Pollard.
Yeah.
I just
All right.
There's some players I'm just like I don't like the guy. Like I'll just not take him. Like I don't know. Pollard's one of them for some reason. I can't quite decide. But yeah, Benson. Yeah, I see the upside, but it might have been an error. I am back on the
To
clock
your
again. And
point,
yeah,
like if you're going with a young running back on a rookie contract, he probably makes the most sense, except for there's one guy that's kind of standing out where he really could be a 50-50 split. And I mean, he was last year with a running back. And I mean, the Steelers did
mhm.
just take another one, but like to me, does Jalen Warren complement this well?
Yeah, Jalen Warren's in there. That'll go with
You know what? If you
Johnson as
hate
well, who
Pollard
they
so much, do
drafted.
you
But
like Spears? Like,
yeah, I mean
is
that
that the bet there? Because I think
I
those
I,
two
I don't.
stand out as potentially having good roles at running.
Yeah, I do like Tajay Spears. That's kind of the guy that I was eyeing up a little bit. There are still some tight ends as well that I quite like. Guys like Isaiah Likely, I think has fallen quite far here. I think getting Isaiah Likely in the 11th round is pretty sweet, actually. Like, I think that's a pretty nice value for someone who Mark Andrews, can still do it and still go, but Likely seems the natural successor over there to link up with Lamar Jackson. So that's maybe where I'm going to go. I don't often draft two tight ends, but the value there just seems too good to be true. And now I do have to point out that we're now, and this is a sleeper thing, Kyle. So it's up to you if you take advantage of it or not. Once it seems to hit the 10th round, all of the CPU teams just stop drafting quarterbacks for whatever reason. So all the quarterbacks will, and you'd be like, why is like I had a comment on the last episode, was like, why did nobody draft Anthony Richardson? I was like, this because it's computer makes a mistake. Like it's just what happens. So there is
Yeah, I'm looking at every
an honor system here to not
every
just
team
draft all
that does
quarterbacks.
have two quarterbacks at this point. So you can see those auto CPUs being like, well, quarterback's not a need.
Yeah. So there will be an honor system in place for you to not whenever we see the ADP all stacked up and it's only quarterbacks at the top. I'll leave it up to you what you do, but I'll take Isaiah Likely. I'm already at the point now where I'm out of my comfort zone a little bit because I don't normally draft like this. And now I'm kind of squirming a bit. I don't quite like it as much, but maybe when I see my team at the end, I'll be happy enough, and I can worry about running back a little bit later, and just build as many elite assets as I can. We'll see at the end how it matches up. I do like your team though, Kyle. I think you can keep this run going with 2 picks back
Well,
to back.
and I've got two guys that I think are really great value. So I'm gonna like my team even more because I think it's two pretty easy picks. Like you, and like you made the likely pick. I don't like going two tight ends that early. I feel like I can get some off waivers or even like the last couple rounds.
Yeah,
That's where you get your backup tight ends. But frankly, this maybe helps this Khalil Shakir pick feel better because there's a tight end right now that I think I'd probably start in the lineup over Kincaid for the time being. And to get him at this much of a value, I think Evan Ingram's a screaming value. Frankly,
yeah.
I'd have him over likely. I'd have him over probably even over. I think I've got him over Mark Andrews. So this is back to the Shakir thing. Shakir is my highest ranked receiver since my previous receiver of Judy. Frankly, Evan Ingram's my highest ranked running tight end since Dalton Kincaid. So I'll go the
I
two
love
tight
that.
end build here because I think I've got like Ingram's pretty high in my tight end rankings. He's tight end 6 for me because I think him with Bo Nix on the Broncos, he's earned a huge target share his whole career. The only guy really standing in his way that's kind of close to equal to his status is Cortland Sutton. And,
Hmm.
Sutton, I think, might be on the last year of his contract. And as good as he did, they maybe incentivized to re-sign him. But I could see a scenario where those are Bo Nix's two main weapons, and well as passing to the running backs a lot, like RJ Harvey. So I guess that's the one thing with my tight ends is that they're both not stacked with quarterbacks, but stacked with other players on the teams. But I think
Yeah.
to get such value at targets, I think I'm willing to do that. And,
I think that's a great pick. I'm a big fan of Evan Ingram this year. I think he's going to have a great year. So I love that pick. And you're still on the clock with your second pick here. Where are you going to go?
I think someone who might be considered like one of the best values total at wide receiver is Juwan Jennings. And I'm looking, Ayuk and Pearsall both went in the 8th round.
Mm-hmm.
I have Jennings ranked higher than both in Dynasty. What he did last year, he looked like he was the wide receiver 1 on the team. With Ayuk's
Yeah.
injury and Pearsall still coming along slowly, I don't see how that changes personally. And I'm not even having to make that bet by taking Jennings over them. I'm just getting him at a huge value. So I love this 11-12 turn here. I thought this was great values on two players that I think should have been going a lot earlier.
Yeah, Juwan Jennings is a great value there. You're absolutely right. And as I see Spears and Warren go off the board, the two guys I was thinking about, man, I hate when that happens. When this is
Yeah.
unusual territory for me to be on the hot seat. I'm quite enjoying it. Being in the trenches with the guests, because those were the guys that I was thinking about, just to kind of fill out that running back room. There are guys like Jaden Blue, Javonte Williams, like, man, this is where it gets a little bit dicey, a little bit tricky. I'm like, do I just go back to old faithful wide receiver and build and build and build? There are some young guys here that I do still really like. Kyle Williams over at New England looks like he could be a potential superstar. Stephon Diggs is an older player, but I think he's going to have a phenomenal year this year. So he could be someone that could bring in and look to flip for maybe like a future first round pick if he starts off hot. Xavier Legette as well over at Carolina, I still think is a really promising player. So he could still come good as well. So I'm in a bit of a pickle. Tight end, I mean, my boy Travis Kelce's there, but I'm not going to go 3 tight ends. I don't think, Kyle. That might be a little bit too much. I'm going to go ahead and take an upside punt. Am I going to take an upside punt on Kyle Williams? No, I'm going to take Stephon Diggs. It doesn't fit the build that I'm making. But again, I just think, as my camera's frozen, but I'm sure you can still hear me. I just think the value is wonderful for Stephon Diggs there, and I'm really, really pleased getting a guy like that who, with this kind of build where I'm maybe looking to build over the next year or two, it could be someone that I flip for future draft capital. And then Stephon Diggs, weirdly enough, will sort out my running back room better than drafting Tank Bigsby or Dylan Sampson, who are the running backs available right now, who I've got little to no interest in, really. So I'm going to continue as well, just down this wide receiver trench that I'm in now. I see a guy like Jalen Noel available on the board, who I really do like. I think there will be a battle with him and Higgins. Higgins obviously has the better draft capital, but in round 13-7, I'm happy to roll the dice on Jalen Noel a little bit. Or, oh man, I've seen another name. I've just seen another name who people seem to love. I'm not fully on board, but enough people that I know and trust and respect really love them some Cedric Tillman. So I'm going to take him, Kyle. What do you think of that?
No, I actually love that. I mean, he might be the number 2 target on Cleveland. Like, that was one thing we were all expecting Travis Hunter on that team before the draft. It seems like that's what all the reports are. And I wonder if that made us like consciously like lower Jerry Jeudy and Tillman because we're all there getting a competition. They look like the starting 2 receivers on the Browns this year. So, I took Jeudy where, like, 6 rounds ahead of where you're getting Tillman. So that's great value. And again, you're not betting that Tillman's going to outproduce Jeudy, but relative to their costs, if I had to pick one of those 2 at their cost, I probably would go with you at Tillman just because of how much of a great value it is there. And I do like Jeudy where I got, so that just speaks even more of how great of a value.
Yeah, absolutely. And continuing to build this elite wide receiver room, which I love. I'll maybe use my last 2 picks on running backs because I only have 1 at the minute, Cal, so I should probably get more than 1. But you're back on the clock. You've got a well-developed squad. Where are you thinking now the last 3 picks? A lot of people have a strategy where they just go exclusively running back from here on. It's just like, you know what, I'm just taking running back, and one of these guys will get an opportunity, and then I'll try and sell them. Do you ever play to that, or are you still trying to build some other pieces?
I mean, that is something I do a lot in rookie drafts. Like, the 4th round should be a lot of running backs. But yeah, to a certain extent, running back depth is so important. When he gets to the point where I'm just drafting depth wide receivers, I probably would just rather draft depth running backs. But I still think the truth is I only have 4 wide receivers. And part of this is to try and, I think, get 5 wide receivers that there's no pressure to flex other positions, right? If you're waiting for Harvey to develop, you don't have to worry about flexing him. You don't want to play Shakir and Kincaid together, so you don't flex Kincaid. So I think, Jennings would fit into one of those flex spots. I think a target earner who just has consistently done it his whole career is Wan'Dale Robinson. Another team that maybe we thought, okay, could they take Travis Hunter? They really didn't bring in much competition at receiver. Like, Neighbors is clearly the alpha, but I think just as easily, Wan'Dale Robinson is clearly the number 2 target on this team. So I think he's starting to get to the last. This is maybe the last bit of receiver where I would be willing to go at wide receiver. So I've got my 5 guys for only 15 rounds. I might content myself with just those 5. And to your point, what you said earlier, I might just hammer running back these last 2 rounds. There's one running back that it's crowded, but I don't think it's out of the question entirely that Tank Bigsby is the starter at some point this year. We saw him usurp Etienne. I know people like Bayshall too.
Yeah.
I wasn't super crazy about him. I'm not really crazy about Tank either. Like if I had to guess who's the starter, I'd say it's Travis Etienne.
Yeah.
But it's a room where literally anything could happen, and I want to just take a shot. And I mean, Etienne went a lot earlier. I believe Tootin did as well. Like Etienne was a 10th round guy. Again, right after I took Aaron Jones. That's true. Tootin in the 11th round to get Tank Bigsby in the 14th. He might be the 3rd running back here, but I am drafting him as that, so it doesn't feel like I'm reaching. There's just a little bit of upside with him that what if he does get the most carries on the team this year? And I think it's probably possible for other running backs too, but he's the last guy where I really could see that happen without an injury. Like he could just earn that starting spot. So Tank Bigsby on the Bengals, or sorry, on the Jaguars. One guy I was thinking about was, do I handcuff Jordan Mason with Aaron Jones? That was the one thing I was thinking of, and he does go here, so that is kind of the value. But
yeah,
I think handcuffing to me is, I do tend to like doing that more in redraft. Year over year with Dynasty, so many things change. Like I think you have a handcuff set up, and then the next year it's not. So
you end up with the wrong handcuff. Yeah,
the chance of Bigsby's upside potentially starting, I think that was enough to make me take it.
Thank you as well. It's been a bugbear of mine for years that a lot of people pronounce it Travis Etienne. I'm sure Saint Etienne is the town in France. Like Etienne is the correct pronunciation. So
I mean, he's from Louisiana, so like any of the players from Louisiana, I assume their French names are like Acadian French. So I would pronounce them like you would a Québécois or an Eastern Canadian French name. So Travis Etienne. Right? No.
Love it. Absolutely love it. That is fantastic flair adding to the show. So I got 2 picks left. Is this where I go running back? Do I take a swing? And man, Blake Corum is there, who I thought was going to do a lot better last year and maybe carve a bit more of a piece into the role.
That would be a pairing of Corum and Benson, right? Like that's like those were the 2 guys last year that everyone was viewing in the same kind of veins. It'd be funny if that was the team you built around this year too.
I know, it's like, do I roll the dice on them again, and hopefully one of them gets a shot? There are a couple of wide receivers still there that I'm like, okay, and then of course the quarterbacks we spoke about. It's not really fair for me to take any of these quarterbacks at the moment because of the funkiness with the ADP. So I will avoid quarterback completely. I mean, the complete wild
QBs as well, right? So like we're kind of like we're set with our QB rooms. We don't want to.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead.
Interesting off waivers.
I'm going to play a wild card here. I'm going to take a guy with no team. I'm taking J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, no, that's in terms of chance at a starting upside. He's probably better with not being on a team than any of these guys. Like Corum stuck behind Kyron.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, no, I don't hate it because like that could like he's the one where his draft price could increase. Like if he signs somewhere, he's probably not a 14th rounder.
It's for me. I think he still is my most owned Dynasty player. If he goes to my Chiefs, I'm going to be over the moon, Kyle. Like I'll be so delighted if he ends up with my Kansas City Chiefs. He could also be a Dallas Cowboy. I think he's going to land somewhere. Hopefully, I will go. Oh, and it could be one that I just flip immediately. Like it could be one I buy, sell him on immediately, and just take the instant profit. And now I'm back on the board. I'm going to ask you you said you're a Packers fan. Marshawn Lloyd was another one that I kind of thought might take over, but he's done absolutely nothing.
I mean, he came into training camp hurt. He got active, and then I think his first game got hurt again and was done for the year. So just injuries. Like he couldn't see the field because of injuries. I didn't like the pick. I'm doing a podcast later, and it's going to be about the Packers specifically. It's not fantasy, and I'm going to rant. This is the pre-rant prepping for that because the Packers and 3rd round picks are a complete disaster. I think they did it once again this year. The only 2, like they've had basically 3 3rd round picks since the GM's been there. Brian Gutekunst, I think he's been there since 2017, 2018, something like that. His third-round picks have been colossal failures. Like some of them, like Amari Rodgers over Amon-Ra St. Brown is probably the worst. Like he didn't even make it halfway through his rookie contract. Like partway through year 2, the whole idea with Amari Rodgers is that he could be a kick returner for us as well as a receiver. He wasn't good at a receiver at all. He was completely horrible, and he kept fumbling on kick returns and not being good. So he couldn't even do the thing they wanted for him. And like partway through year 2, they just cut him because it was just that awful. So like those disasters, they had Josiah DeGuara as easily the third best third-round pick. Do you even know who that is?
Never. No, not
He
ringing
is
a
a
bell.
tight end, so he was fantasy relevant in that sense. But he played more snaps at fullback than he actually did at tight end. He was fairly athletic. Like I remember a couple plays where like there was a Jordan Love play. I think it might have been that Chiefs game that he started when Rodgers had COVID. He got a touchdown with DeGuara. And it was just a little 10, 15-yard screen pass, and DeGuara took it like 70 yards. I think the Chiefs defense wasn't prepared for this random fullback to catch this screen. Just totally caught them off guard. Chiefs still won that game, of course. But it was like, man, that's his highlight, though. This one play that it was Jordan Love's first touchdown, I think. That's DeGuara's whole moment. He actually made it through his rookie contract. So he's easily the third best third-round pick, but they spent a third-round pick on a fullback, essentially. They have technically 2 starters right now that are third-round picks, and these would be like the good ones. Sean Ryan, who is their starting right guard, and Tucker Kraft, a tight end.
Okay,
that's it. Like that's the peak of what a third-round pick could be for the Packers is Tucker Kraft, which is good. But then you see the floor is just completely awful, and so the fact that Marshawn Lloyd is a Packers third-round pick, we should bet against him just for that. That's totally anecdotal, but based on their history, these third-rounders, that's why Savion Williams to me is unrosterable. They immediately talked about, he's a wide receiver. We might get him into the backfield. He might do this. Like they're already kind of like, we don't know where to play him because he's not good enough as a receiver to just play him at wide receiver. So to justify the fact that we took him in the third round, we have to use him as this like movable piece just to give him snaps to justify him as a third rounder. It seems like it's already doomed to fail. The players where you're not sure what position to play them, that means they're not good at any position. So it's like I don't tend to like those players. Like it's not Travis Hunter. Like
where it's sorry, we lost you a little bit there again, Kyle. We said it's not Travis Hunter. I think we lost you on.
Yeah, but just he can play 2 positions so well. That was the whole point. Like, he can dominate 2 positions. So it's a totally different argument. Savion Williams is not. So I think from that point, I think you shouldn't take Marshawn Lloyd. The track record of third-round picks, and again, I didn't like him before the draft. He was one of my lower tape grades. I thought his footwork was bad. His RAS score was really high. He had good combine numbers, which is totally a Packers thing to do. It's just, Gutekunst is very much, we draft for athleticism because you can't teach it. But like, David, there's like fundamental technique things that this guy doesn't do well. His production wasn't there in college. Like, I really didn't like the Lloyd pick. And so, maybe Savion Williams is the backup running back.
Who knows?
Emmanuel Wilson, year over year, does so well in the preseason, and he waited for his opportunity to finally be the backup, and he looked good last year. I'd be hard pressed. They tendered him to a restricted free agent contracts. They could have easily let him go, but they also it wasn't that much money to commit to him. But I still view Emmanuel Wilson as the backup running back. All to say.
Okay.
So I think he's a better pick than Marshawn Lloyd here.
You've definitely talked me out of it. There's no chance of taking Marshawn Lloyd after that. After that, Kyle, I'll go ahead and take someone who I can't stop drafting. I cannot do it. He seems to be available over and over and over again in all my rookie drafts at the minute, and he's available here. I'm just going to go ahead and take Alec Eilmanner over at Tennessee. He's got a huge chance. This is a guy who I've seen in my show people taking the first round of rookie mocks before the NFL Combine and draft happened. So people obviously believe in the talent. I seen him have Travis Hunter like on toast, easily like dismantled Travis Hunter 2 years ago. So the upside is there, the potential is there. There's not a lot of competition, no matter what Cam Ward says while he's playing Fortnite. There's not a lot of competition over there at the Tennessee Titans. Give me Alec Eilmanner and I'll take a punt at him, and I may as well the way I've been drafting wide receivers. So, Kyle, you're on the clock with the final pick of the draft. Where are you going here? Is this where you kind of go, I'm just going to take one of my guys, or is there a screaming value?
I wouldn't say either, really. This is more, I don't have it stacked with Jaden Daniels. But I still, like to your point earlier, want to fill running back depth. So there's one player that fits both of those things. A pass-catching running back that, again, for a team that's, I'm trying to push as a win now team now, I want Austin Eckler on this team. So I was looking through. There was guys like Jerome Ford, the same argument as Tank Bigsby. Like he could potentially, in fact, probably should have taken Jerome Ford over Tank Bigsby. Now I think about it, I do like him more than Bigsby, but
I've got Judkins and Sampson ahead of him now. I don't know if he'll carve out much of a role.
Like he and Bigsby could be the third guys on their teams, but we've also seen them at points be the starter. So it's essentially the same argument. But now I'm looking. Probably should have just taken Austin Eckler last round, to be honest. But I think now he's a really good value here. It gets me that Jaden Daniels stack. It kind of, I commanded the draft with my first and last pick here of the whole thing. It's an arch form here, and complete the stack with Austin Eckler.
I absolutely love it. And that brings us to the end of our draft. Kyle, what I'll do is I'll read you out my team and let's see how I did. And then you can read out your team. And listeners at home, you can leave a comment. Who do you think did better? I'm pretty sure it was Kyle after I'm drafting outside of my comfort zone. Let's see what my team looks like though, shall we? JJ McCarthy is in at quarterback. Hey, Trey Benson and J.K. Dobbins at running back. Let's not worry about that though. Let's move on because the wide receivers are stacked. Because I've got Justin Jefferson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Garrett Wilson, Rashee Rice, Trey Harris, Stephon Diggs, Cedric Tillman as my wide receivers. I got TJ Hawkinson, and I've got Isaiah Likely at tight end. I've got Michael Penix and Tua Tagovailoa, as well as Alec Manor, who I took in the last round, of course, to round out that wide receiver room. So not a team for this year, but hopefully I can do well in the draft, get some running backs locked in, and then start to compete. Kyle, who have you got?
I was going to say the team build structure you have is similar to another team that you manage. The worst team ever. But like in terms of
I wish we had Justin Jefferson.
That's the thing. The running back room looks like that, but the wide receiver room most definitely doesn't. I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. is a great piece to have, of course. But the depth you have at receiver. This is most certainly not the worst team ever.
No.
I mean, I would argue it's not the worst team in the draft. So there you got that.
Ooh, I'll take it. And on to the best team in the draft, Kyle. Let's hear about yours.
Oh, I don't have the Lamar Jackson bonus. I'm just kidding. No, that seemed to be the team that was sniping a lot of my picks. So I actually do really like that team 4, which I did mention as the other spot I was tempted to take. But
true.
Yeah, I've got 3 quarterbacks, just like Mags does: Jaden Daniels, Kyler Murray, and Dak Prescott.
Nice.
That'll be really tough having to, again, if I had to manage this team, it'd be tough to pick those matchups week in, week out between Dak and Kyler, or maybe look for a trade downgrade at QB3 to upgrade another position. At running back, we've got Chase Brown, RJ Harvey as rookie contract guys. I guess technically so is nice. Tank Bigsby. And then Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler to give me those not productive win now pieces. And not a lot of depth at receiver, but I've got 5 guys that I think I can trust in my lineup every week. And I think that's more important to me than having a lot of depth at receiver. So Nico Collins, Jerry Jeudy, Khalil Shakir, Jawan Jennings, and Wan'Dale Robinson. I kind of love that room, and I could easily complement it with picks after the draft. And, if I really needed a 6th receiver, but I think one of the things we overdo in Dynasty, and I'm guilty of it too on some teams, is having too much wide receiver depth. Guys that, I think you mentioned the point earlier, well, this guy's never going to see my lineup, so why even bother taking him? I'd rather just the depth at running back, the turnover of injuries at that position, the idea that if a starter gets hurt, the backup immediately elevates to a role, like that's where you'd rather just hammer that running back depth. So 5 receivers, I think, is pretty good. I don't think you need to go more than that. Could have even gone less in theory, but I think that's a nice balance. And 2 tight ends, Dalton Kincaid, Evan Ingram.
Love it. Absolutely smashed it, mate. What a great team. And that does unfortunately bring us to the end of the draft. Kyle, once again, you've been amazing on the Dynasty Hot Seat. Can you just remind everyone listening, where can they find all your brilliant work online?
Well, yeah. So for those who want to follow me, I do have my Twitter handle there, @SenraSays. I do contribute for a few sites, which I'm repping right now, shirt and hat wise, for those in the video. I already mentioned Dynasty Six Pack. It's a YouTube show weekly that we do on the Fantasy Six Pack network of YouTube shows. Obviously, our focus is Dynasty. Myself, Jamie Perogue, Rahul Natarajan. You can follow them at Jamie Perogue, at Small Talk FF. But yeah, we're part of Fantasy Six Pack, as I mentioned. And Fantasy Six Pack is a website, lots of great articles. I've got a few articles coming out in the next month. Actually, it's our I think tomorrow tomorrow's the first day of June, so we're going to start releasing, I think, one article every day through the month of June. It's going to be team draft articles. I'm responsible for the AFC South, so I've already written my Texans article. Currently working on the Colts article. Those should come out at some point. I think the Texans article will be out at some point next week. Colts article in a couple weeks.
Cool.
Spoke about Nico Collins in that, or wrote about Nico Collins. So I get great that I got to draft him here. So yeah, Fantasy Six Pack, a great source. I'm going to write articles throughout the year. My goal line guide article, which is a weekly matchup based article. I usually start that around week 5 to give me 4 weeks of data. But essentially, what I'm looking at is trying to predict touchdowns, and especially touchdowns inside the 5. So it's a look at offensive efficiency inside the 5, but also defensive efficiency, which teams are allowing touchdowns inside the 5 more often, and then cross comparing the matchups each week. So this offense versus this defense, and it gives me what I call my goal line grade for each team's. And this is the other thing I do here. I divide everything rushing and passing. So each team will have its own rushing grade, and each team will have its own passing score.
I love it.
And that score is important. The difference between the two scores is also something I measure. So it's all just things that I'm trying to do weekly to predict touchdowns, because that's really the thing that creates those spike weeks. So that when we're chasing upside, I love that as a resource. And I find you're chasing upside the further the season goes on. When you get into the playoffs and you're always playing against good teams, you really need that upside. And I also find the goal line guide gets more predictive, and it gets better as the season goes on because there's just more data being put into it. So that week 17 goal line guide article for championships, like that could really help you with your weekly touchdown decisions. But the week 5 article, I think, have also hit on some things as well. So that's an article series I'm really proud of. It used to be with full press coverage. It used to be on there, but happy that got that article at Fantasy Six Pack now. I think it's a great resource, great tool. I also write articles for the league winners. That tends to be less fantasy football. That's usually just about the Packers. So last season, I did weekly matchup previews for all the Packers game, as well as in August started writing some season preview articles. So yeah, look for all that. So going for two, the other site, I do live shows for them sometimes as well. That's where you can find all my rankings as well, in the Dynasty ranking section, rookie rankings as well. That's where all my rankings are published at goingfor2.com.
Wow, a busy man indeed. Man in popular demand, and I can't blame anyone for wanting you on board, Kyle. You're always an amazing guest, and it's great chatting to you, but unfortunately, we are at the end. If you're watching at home, thank you so much. Don't forget, like and subscribe to become certified. Love that new tagline. Guys, thank you so much, Kyle. Pleasure, as always. And remember, for anything Dynasty you need to know, keep it locked on the Certified Inferno. We'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.